Hi, I'm Sarah Carpenter, and this is my talk about Sally Mann. We're going to talk today about Sally Mann. Now, I want to give a little information about why I'm doing these talks. And I feel like if you're coming from my Substack, you're probably like, I have been reading about why you want to give these talks the whole time. But for me, I'm thinking about people who aren't on my Substack. So sorry for the awkward pause. But let's talk about real quick what you typically see on YouTube. You typically see gear reviews. You typically see 5 tips to success in your photography business. And I don't want to do that because I've read all the tips and the photography gear reviews, and I don't think that they help, because as a photographer, the main goal for many of us is to capture what we see and to capture this feeling that won't go away inside of us and to make it come out of us in some way. And the more that I listen to photographers talk and the more that I see their documentaries, the more that I want to shoot in a way that gets those emotions out of me, that captures the world around me, and not necessarily have the goal of being published in Harper's Bazaar or Vogue like I used to. Not that those things wouldn't be great. They would be great, but let's just stop for a second and think, why would we want to become photographers in the first place? There's plenty of other ways to get fame and fortune that aren't so grueling and aren't so tedious as being an artist. So I wanted to make a YouTube channel, set of videos, that kind of encompass what my Substack is about. And that's just having discussions about people who I aspire to be, people who I don't agree with, people whose work means something to me, but personally I really am apathetic about them. And I just want to have these discussions in a way that is more casual and less formal. And I think talking to a camera, although it's really scary for me, and I promise I will try not to be this awkward in future videos, but talking to a camera is a little bit less formal than having paragraphs written in a way that is good writing rather than a colloquial discussion. So, we can go into that further in different videos where we discuss why I'm discussing all these people. But for now, I just want to talk about Sally Mann, because I've been going through all these documentaries lately, and hers struck me. I didn't know that much about her before. I knew her name, and to be honest, I think I used to get her mixed up with Dorothea Lange quite often, just because, I don't know, because she's a woman and there aren't that many of us in the photography industry. So I watched her documentary, and what I found out was that you don't have to be commissioned for all your work. That's like the simplest thing that I can say as a takeaway. I wish I could show you her images, but I don't have any of her books. And that's partially because her memoir is either on back order or at Sony that hasn't come out yet. So I'm ordering on Amazon, but it's not going to come in until February. And then her other books that I've been able to find are on the more expensive side. So I probably should get to a library soon. But I'm a mom, and that's my excuse, if I should have an excuse. But in the future, I'd like to show my favorite photos from these different photographers and kind of give you an idea of like what I'm looking at and what my eyes see and what my perspective brings to an image. And I'm not gonna like tell you what's the best composition or anything like that, because I just purely think that the emotions of an image are what make an impact, and not who's the best composer or lighter, or is lighter a word? The best lighting would create the best images. I think it's the person behind the camera that makes the best images. So let's talk about Sally, finally. I love her work. I loved her immediate family work, just the glimpses I've seen of it from the documentary that I will link in my bio. She photographed her kids, and it became controversial because there are photographs of her kids nude, and I understand why that's controversial. Seeing the images they were so beautiful because You can tell that it's a not sexualized image. It's her photographing her children and loving them. So, uncomfortable as I am about nudity, I also really appreciated being able to see those images. But I can also see where she had this innocence to her and not really understanding why it would be as controversial as it was. And she even says in the documentary, if she had it to do again, she probably wouldn't have, or she wouldn't post or share. We say post, right? Because Instagram, but she probably wouldn't share the images like that again. But I love that she would just create this body of work, and it wasn't commissioned. It was just her creating work to fill something with her, which was probably about remembering what her kids were like at that age. And I say this all the time when I'm trying to sell people on portrait sessions, family portrait sessions. Like, your kids, they grow up so fast. But it's not just about that. It's about how life changes so fast. And I think it's important to have those memories. Not just for ourselves, but for future generations. Like, one of my favorite things is going through my grandparents' old photos and seeing what they were like when they were younger. And they're no longer with us. And seeing them again and again through these beautiful black and white images that they just took of each other for no purpose other than to have the pictures is really refreshing. And so seeing that Sally Mann had done this and created these images and this whole set, and that it became a book, was inspiring to me. One, because I take pictures of my kids all the time. I take pictures of them all over the house with my black and white 35mm film, with my Contax 645, with my digital camera, and my iPhone. I'm just constantly taking pictures of them. But for a long time, I felt very self-conscious about this was my body of work, because since I left the wedding industry, I haven't had consistent work. And especially with this move, I haven't had much work at all. So I love that she did this. I love that she didn't have to go anywhere to create a body of work. I love that she didn't have to be commissioned to create this body of work. And it kind of gives you the sense of like, well, I can photograph my kids and be a professional photographer and not feel like a joke or have imposter syndrome surrounding it. It is respectable to create beautiful images around your own family. It is respectable to create beautiful images around the things you see on a daily basis. So the other things I noticed that I really love about her work is when she moved on from the immediate family and she started focusing on death after her dog died. And you would need to listen to her discuss this, but it wasn't about the picture she took that I started thinking about death or anything like that. What got me thinking was that she went from taking these beautiful portraits of her kids to taking beautiful portraits of death, to taking pictures of landscapes, to taking pictures of wildfires, or the damage that wildfires had created. And she took pictures of her husband and the struggles that he was facing, and she took pictures of mundane daily life. And each of the collections that she had created were things that kind of got stuck in her head, you know? And we don't do that enough, right? We're always like trying to find the angle, right? And then I start to think about this more and more, and then I start to watch more documentaries, and then I start to see that people like Saul Leiter were doing the same thing. They were just walking around their neighborhoods, and then the things that like struck chords with them were the things they were taking pictures of. It wasn't this manufactured editorial that cost millions of dollars, which is also a very beautiful way of creating photographs, but it doesn't have to be the way we create photographs. I don't have to go and commission someone to make these elaborate floral designs, to put a model in, to get a dress, to take the pictures, to retouch. It can literally be pictures of my own family. It can be pictures of my neighborhood, my street, over and over and over. That's important to know that. So I wanted to talk about that. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that photographers have to have the whole team, the whole gambit, the commission, the National Geographic contract? Or is a real photographer someone who has something inside them that needs to come out? And the way you make it come out is with your camera. That's the discussion for today. I will find less awkward ways to start and end it in the future. And I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope that you come back and that we can do this over and over and over, and maybe next time you'll be looking at pictures instead of at my awkward face. But in the meantime, have a great week.